Good evening. My name is Greg Frazier. I am the project manager for the proposed Reconstruction of Mountain Street project, which will be presented tonight. I work in the project management section at the Massachusetts Department of Transportation's Highway Division, headquarters in Boston. Welcome to our live virtual public informational meeting. During this presentation, we will explain the purpose of the meeting, provide an overview of the right-of-way procedures, and explain the design. Finally, we will explain how you can submit your comments and questions about the project. But first, I will hand it over to Joe, who will explain how to use our meeting platform, Zoom.
Thank you, Greg. My name is Joseph Yu. I'm one of two Mass DOT producers and moderators this evening, providing tech support and facilitating questions. My co-producers, Chris Clem, will help me facilitate the questions and answers. There are two main ways for you to participate in tonight's meeting with our panelists. You can use the Q&A button anytime during the presentation, and then you can also use the raised hand function as well. For users dialing in with their phones, please press *9 to raise your hand. If you're unable to access the internet or are having technical problems at any time during the meeting, please call into the meeting instead at the number provided on the screen, which is 646-931-3860 with the webinar ID 853-1388-8821. Zoom tech support is also available throughout the presentation and can be reached at 1-888-799-9666. Please note that this public meeting will be recorded. It is being recorded currently. The Massachusetts Department of Transportation may choose to retain and distribute the video, still images, audio, and chat transcript. All parts of this meeting are considered public record, and by continuing attendance with this virtual public hearing meeting, you consent to participate in a recorded event. If you are not comfortable being recorded, please keep your camera off and keep your microphone muted, or you can also excuse yourself from the meeting entirely. Your microphone and webcam are automatically disabled upon entering this meeting. This meeting will be open to questions and answers at the end of the formal presentation. There is also a survey that would pop up on your screen at the end of this meeting as you exit. Please take some time to respond to the survey. Your feedback is very important to the continued success with the Department of Transportation. On this screen, you'll see Mass DOT's notice of policy on diversity and civil rights. All Mass DOT activities, including public meetings, are free of discrimination. Mass DOT complies with all federal and state civil rights requirements with diversity and civil rights, and we welcome the diversity from across our entire service area. Please visit the website mass.gov/non-discrimination in transportation program to reach the Office of Diversity and Civil Rights. All questions and comments are welcomed and appreciated. However, we do request that you refrain from any disrespectful comments. Back to you, Greg.
Thank you, Joe. First, I would like to mention that following the design public hearing, we heard your comments and revisited the design. The previous design used the design justification process to meet the minimum requirements of the Massachusetts Healthy Transportation Policy, along with the federal highway controlling criteria. After receiving your comments, the design team requested further exemptions from the Secretary of Transportation's office. We will go more into detail later in the presentation, but we reduced the cross-section to better match the existing roadway width of a consistent 24-foot cross-section, as well as revisited the drainage and impacts to abutting properties. Now let's jump into our agenda for this evening. We will go over tonight's panelists, why the project was initiated, what we would like to accomplish, how has the design changed since the design public hearing, what are some of the environmental, cultural resource, and community impacts what will the construction approach be, and how will the road user be affected? How will we keep you informed? And then finally, we will hold our questions and answers. Let me welcome our panelists from MassDOT who've joined me this evening. As mentioned previously, I am Greg Frazier, the MassDOT Project Manager. Mark Moore, District 1 Project Development Engineer. Pam Marquis, the Right-of-Way Compliance Manager. Joe Yu and Chris Clem, who will be our producers and facilitators for this evening. From the town of Williamsburg, Nick Kakimoff, the town administrator. And from Hoyle, Tanner and Associates, we have Todd Clark, the consultant's project manager, and Nicole Davis. A handout has been prepared and posted to the MassDOT website. In the handout, you will find documentation which may be useful to you in understanding the project and submitting formal comments in response to this presentation. You will see that the notice of meeting is included on page 2 of the handout. The notice was sent to your municipality on January 18th, 2024, and coordination will continue as the design progresses. This notice also appeared in the Daily Hampshire Gazette and the Country Journal on January 25th and February 1st of 2024. The meeting was also posted to MassDOT social media. Thank you as well to the town of Williamsburg, Williamsburg Veteran Services, the Food Bank of Western Mass, Registry of Motor Vehicles, and the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission for sharing the notice. Moving forward, the purpose of holding meetings is to provide an assured method whereby the Commonwealth of Massachusetts can furnish to the public information concerning the state's highway construction proposals and to afford every interested resident of the area an opportunity to be heard in any proposed project. At the same time, the meetings afford the Commonwealth an additional opportunity to receive information from local sources, which would be of value to the state in making its final decisions to what design should be advanced for development. The estimated total project cost is currently about $2.2 million and will come from federal aid funding, with the Federal Highway Administration funding 80% of the total construction cost. MassDOT will fund the remaining 20%. This project must be programmed in the statewide Transportation Improvement Program in the appropriate federal fiscal year in order for MassDOT to solicit bids for eventual construction. The estimate does not include any right-of-way acquisition costs. The town of Williamsburg will be responsible for any right-of-way acquisition costs. We anticipate the design to be completed in the winter of 2026, and once begun, the construction to take 2 construction seasons. Please keep in mind that the project we are presenting is still in the early design stage. All your questions and comments will be taken into consideration when completing the project's design. Now we can move on to the substance of the presentation. I am going to turn the presentation over to Todd Clark of Hoyle, Tanner and Associates, who have been retained by MassDOT. Todd will present the project and describe how it will improve the roadway. Take it away, Todd.
Thank you, Greg. Well, how did we get here? The design public hearing was held in June 2021. Responses to public comments were provided. Based on public input received, the the design justification workbook was revisited with the Secretary's office to discuss further modifications to the cross-section. Then, in the winter of 2022, a healthy transportation exemption was received supporting the reduced cross-section. Since then, through early winter 2024, preliminary redesign of the project began and continues. Today's project informational meeting is intended to provide an update on how the Mountain Street project design has changed. Why was this project initiated? To achieve the 4 project goals. 1, maintain the rural character of the road, preserving the area. 2, address the poor roadway pavement condition. 3, update signage, pavement markings, and guardrail. And 4, repair and maintain roadway drainage. What do we want to accomplish? Repair the roadway pavement and structure to reduce yearly maintenance efforts. To do so, this will include practical upgrades to aged drainage structures and pipes. Also included is installation of a new transmission water main funded by the City of Northampton. The project will address the need to provide practical, permanent erosion control measures and upgrade guardrail to current standards in this rural setting. So how has the design changed since the public hearing? Leading up to the design public hearing, alternatives analyzed focus more on providing bicycle and pedestrian accommodations. At the hearing, the 28-foot paved cross-section was presented and strong comments were heard in opposition. This prompted the revisit to the design justification workbook and pursuit of the waiver of the healthy transportation policy. Upon receipt, the project is now road preservation focused, intending to maintain the rural road character, reduce impacts to abutting properties, and make repairs and updates where feasible. The existing roadway is an unbuilt road with irregular pavement layout. With irregular pavement layout, width, and curvature. The roadway varies from 22 to 26 feet and is on average between 24 and 25 feet wide. After reviewing the existing conditions, designers iterated the proposed curvature to minimize deviations from the existing conditions. The design now proposes a consistent 24-foot wide improved paved surface with new markings, signage, and guardrails. By comparison, there are differences between the existing and proposed edges of pavement that will be further described in the coming slides. Preserving the roadway. Next slide. In addition to new pavement, the design also proposes repair and maintenance of new drainage pipe structures and culverts and ditches, as mentioned, to perpetuate the existing drainage patterns. Stormwater treatment measures such as outlet protection stone for erosion control are included to meet Wetlands Protection Act to the extent practicable. One stream crossing improvement replaces a 48-inch corrugated metal pipe with a stream crossing rule compliant precast structure. The new 24-inch water main will be installed from the start of the project to and along Reservoir Road. With this design, overall, fewer utility pole relocations are necessary, as will be described in the coming slides. Before we get into the slides, however, let's review some terminologies used during the presentation. Driveway area. The driveway area is the minor regrading and surface work to the driveways to match into the proposed roadway. Temporary slope areas are called out. These are topsoil regrading areas for drainage and drive work to match the proposed roadway. Utility easement. These are areas around existing utility poles, anchors, and drainage structures and pipes beyond the right-of-way to allow necessary future maintenance and repairs. Roadway. New roadway pavement and base materials. The new water main, as described, is a new 24-inch transmission water main by the City of Northampton. Drainage structure and pipe. These are new catch basins, manholes, and pipes to replace existing corrugated metal pipes and structures. Another term used is county right-of-way boundary line. This defines the county-owned lands, preserving the right to own, operate, and maintain the roadway. And then property boundary line is a term used where defined as the line between 2 points where properties begin and end. Now to provide some additional information and context prior to reviewing the project design graphics. On the top of this sheet is the project legend, and on the bottom are 2 examples of the graphics presented. The project graphics are an aerial image that is overlain with the current design that is in progress. Shown on the lower portion of the slide are 2 examples of the graphics that will be presented. On every page of the graphics, a legend is included. Driveway areas are shown in a magenta colored shape. Driveway areas are drawn from the edge of pavement to where the work is anticipated to match existing grade. Some drive work is shown beyond the right-of-way boundary line. Temporary slope work beyond the right-of-way boundary line is shown in bright green. Orange highlights define utility easements beyond the right-of-way. Throughout the graphics, roadway work is shown in a gray color. The new water main is shown in a double blue line. Proposed drainage structures are symbolized by a black square inside of a circle, while new pipes are shown in bold, solid black lines. The right-of-way boundary line is shown as a broken red line with 2 dashes. Note the difference in the lower left graphic between the overhead utility lines and the boundary line. And finally, the property boundary lines are cyan colored with the text PL along the line. Finally, before the presentation advances to describe the project design, allow me to again state the progress status of these plans. Driveway design matches are being advanced for the next submission, along with aerial utility relocations design. The utility pole relocations shown on the project graphics are not yet revised for the current design. What is shown is what was shown at the design public hearing. Efforts are ongoing to revisit the need for relocations. Many relocations will no longer be required. For example, the first utility pole on the left side of the road opposite the driveway located at 2 Mountain Street is beyond the work shown and more than 4 feet from the travel lane. So the need for relocation of this pole has changed and will be revisited. This approach to revise all utility pole relocations along the entire project is part of the ongoing efforts in preparation of the 75% design submission. Now on to the project description. The project begins north of the Kinsley Avenue, High Street, and Mountain Street intersection. The design plan graphics in the area of 2 to 8 Mountain Street depict proposed work on the pavement, drive areas, existing aged drainage structures and pipes being replaced, and the new water main along Mountain Street. This work is substantially within the right-of-way layout. Temporary grading and drainage work at 2 Mountain Street is shown in bright green shapes, where easements are needed for work on the existing facilities located beyond the right-of-way. Also, the 6 utility pole relocations depicted are not yet revised from the design public hearing plan. Again, all utility poles are under an ongoing project-wide review with this new design. The number of existing utility poles requiring relocation is expected to decrease. The aerial easements shown on the orange highlights are not accurate. Moving on to the area from 0 to 15 Mountain Street. And this area depicts the proposed road work on the pavement, driveway areas, existing aged drainage structures and pipes being replaced, the new water main along Mountain Street. Again, this work is substantially within the right-of-way. However, temporary grading work at 15 Mountain Street is shown in the bright green shapes, where easements are needed for work on the driveway beyond the right-of-way. Again, utility poles in this area are not yet revised from the design public hearing plan. For the area between 15 to 21 Mountain Street, proposed work on the pavement, driveway areas, aged guardrail, drainage structures and pipes being replaced, and a new water main. This work again is within the right-of-way, and temporary grading work on the is shown adjacent to Lower Road in the sliver of bright green highlight. Now, regarding the proposed 24-foot wide consistent pavement layout from the beginning of the project to the address of 65 and 66 Mountain Street. This is jumping ahead a little bit, but I wanted to make a statement about the existing versus proposed pavement. Along this segment, the proposed now closely matches the existing edges of pavement and width. This level of pavement match continues to about 1,000 feet past the North Adams Road intersection, where some areas of the road deviate by 6 inches to a foot to remove the curvature irregularities, or where the existing roadway is actually wider than the proposed. Moving on. The area 21 to 23 Mountain Street. Proposed work is on the pavement, driveway areas, existing guardrail, the aged drainage structures and pipes being replaced, new drainage structures, and the water main along the road. What is additionally shown in this area is the potential wetland mitigation, potential wetland replication area shown on the town of Williamsburg land. Continuing down the road, from the Laurel Street intersection through the areas of 23 to 30A Mountain Street, it's more of the same type of work. Matches to existing driveways are shown. Again, the aerial utility relocations are being revisited. And there's temporary slope work shown in the Laurel Road intersection area. Next slide, please. In the area for 29 Mountain to 35 Mountain, again, more of the same roadway work, water main, driveway matches, with 2 areas at the 33 and 35 AB Mountain Street area where roadway side slope are shown beyond the right-of-way layout line. For the area between 32 and 40 Mountain Street, again, more of the same type of work. Roadway reconstruction, water main with some side slope grading on the 35 AB parcel, and driveway matches. Next slide, please. As we come into the Dewey Circle area, roadway work will continue along with the water main work, the guardrail installation opposite Dewey Circle, some Dewey Circle roadway improvements along with associated grading. Next slide, please. In this area of the project between 49 to Mountain to 4 North Adams, the roadway work will continue with much of the same. New or replacement structures are shown adjacent to the 49 Mountain Street and 5 AB Dewey Circle parcels. Continuing on. For the area between 53 Mountain to 57 Mountain, driveway matches, replacements and enhancements of existing drainage structures. And noted on this is some slope work beyond the right-of-way in the slivers of light green shading, along with utility easements shown in orange highlights. added to the end of existing pipes along the corridor are feasible erosion outlet stone to reduce the potential future possibility of soil migration. Continuing past North Farms Road onto the area between 57 Mountain to 65 Mountain. More of the roadway work continues substantially within the right-of-way with driveway matches to existing conditions. Next slide, please. 64 to 70 Mountain Street. The roadway work will continue along with the water main reconstruction work. In this area, there's existing drainage, closed drainage systems and structures intercepting stormwater. Those will be replaced. And the intent is, again, to replace the corrugated metal pipes that have reached their service life. The work is shown substantially within the right-of-way. And again, to reiterate, the utility easements shown on these plans are being revisited. Next slide, please. This is the area where some of the existing pavement deviates from the proposed. And the reason for the deviation is the existing pavement in a couple areas, as I'll describe moving down the project, is actually narrower than 24 feet. So the intent is to provide a consistent 24-foot proposed roadway through the area. But in this area from 70 to 78 Mountain, again, roadway work, water main, and drainage structures and pipes. Next slide. More of the same through this area. Next slide, please. Continuing down the roadway with 81R to 90 Mountain. Again, more of the same approach in new design. Where the slope work is substantially on this sheet is within the existing right-of-way layout. Next slide, please. From 89 to 94 Mountain Street. This is an area where the pavement continues to be narrower than the proposed 24 feet. But roadway work will continue. There is some slope work shown at the Emmerich and Poulin parcel on the lower section of the screen. Also shown as a utility easement on that parcel for outlet protection stone for the existing pipe outlet. Additional slope work is shown on the 94 Mountain Street parcel. Moving on. For the area between 94 and 101 Mountain Street. Again, more of the same type of roadway work and driveway match work. Again, this is the area that continues to be less than the 24-foot width. On average, existing measured to be between 22.5 and 23 feet wide. Continuing on. For 96 Mountain to 107 Mountain Street. Again, more of the same type of roadway work and water transmission construction with the beginnings of 2 guardrail segments shown. Continuing on. For the area between 96 Mountain and 105 Adams. This is an area depicting the proposed roadway work, the pavement, and drive areas. The utility relocations in this area will also just somewhat facilitate the construction of a new stream crossing compliant precast structure mentioned earlier. as we progress through the Adams Road intersection onto the 105 Adams to 120 Mountain Street area. Of note here is the water main leaves the Mountain Street roadway and begins to travel down Reservoir Road. Roadway pavement and driveway matches are shown. And from here through the end of the project, the city of Northampton possesses existing drainage utility easements that are shown in the orange highlight. Continuing on. Continued roadway work with minor grading for some topsoil work shown on just adjacent to the city of Northampton's drainage easement. Continuing on. Roadway work in this area proposes some impacts to the 125 Mountain Street and 129 Mountain Street parcels for roadway side slope grading. While on the right-hand side of the road, all the grading work is within the layout. Next slide. The one for the 120 Mountain, continuing on to 137 Mountain Street, more of the same. Roadway reconstruction work with drainage repairs shown and driveway matches. Continuing on. 120 to 137 again, same type of work. At the far right of this parcel is the driveway up to the water treatment facility. Continuing on. Again, more of the same type of roadway work with the replacement of the guardrail along the right-hand side with drainage repairs and improvements. Continuing on. Again, more of the same type of work in this area. The guardrail is extended along the right-hand side and the roadway reconstruction work will continue. Continuing on. This is the last project graphic for the project that ties into and just over the Whately town line. And again, the roadway, the consistent 24-foot wide roadway section will tie into the existing as shown in this graphic. Next slide, please. So what are the environmental, cultural, resource, and community impacts? A notice of intent or NOI permit for wetlands impacts will need to be filed and coordinated with the Williamsburg Conservation Commission. This will include coordination with Mass Wildlife's Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program and occur prior to the NOI submittal to determine the species protected under priority habitat that is associated with Beaver Brook. Permanent wetland impacts will be replicated within the new area mentioned previously. The project avoids the high-value agricultural land uses beyond the rural village district. Each submission will be reviewed by Mass DOT's Cultural Resource Department, including a historical review. The project avoids impacts to Article 97 lands, and no Section 4F land is located within the project limits. Could you go back for one moment, please? I would like to mention some wetland resource impacts that are being kept to a minimum. There are two large culverts on the project that cross the Beaver and Potash Brooks, and the improvements within this project are limited to culvert repairs to retain the existing function. I've mentioned the one stream crossing enhancement already, and there are no impacts to the Mountain Street Reservoir. Moving on. What is the construction approach? During the project construction, two-way alternating traffic during roadway drainage, guardrail, and utility work is envisioned. Staged construction is envisioned for the culvert work for the new precast stream crossing. This includes a temporary signal with alternating traffic. Access will be maintained to all budding properties at all times. The work is intended to be constructed within the area of the existing road. The roadway is anticipated to be constructed in segments. Local areas for drainage, guardrail, and utility work will constrict travel to one-lane operations during the day. Water main construction is expected to start at the beginning of the project and progress towards and along Reservoir Road. Expect traffic restrictions to one lane around daily construction operations. Again, the short-term single-lane operations are proposed around the culvert near the 96 and 107 Mountain Street parcels for the stream crossing. Next slide, please. How will road users be affected? Users will experience daily lane closures opened during non-work hours. Possibly multiple locations within the construction zone will be necked down to a single lane. A temporary signal will be installed to control the alternating one-way traffic pattern around the 96 to 107 Mountain Street culvert construction site. Travel can be expected on irregular surfaces. Temporary trench patches can be expected, travel on gravel segments as well. Property access, however, will be maintained. So our next step, to complete the 75% design during the summer of 2024. Then on to permitting and file environmental permits in the fall of 2024. From there, the project will complete or continue through the 100% and with submittal of the 100% final design during the spring of 2025. Right-of-way plans in securing land rights is expected to commence from the spring through the summer of 2025. And then finally, the project is scheduled to advertise for construction in the spring of 2026. And now I'd like to turn the presentation over to Mass DOT's project manager, Greg Frazier.
Thank you, Todd. So how will we keep you informed moving forward? Upcoming public outreach will involve a 75% submission, multiple 75% right-of-way submission reviews, 100% submission review, 100% right-of-way submission review, which all will be submitted to the town of Williamsburg. There will then be a final submission for advertisement for bids. You may access the project website by using your mobile device camera and focusing on the QR code on the slide. You may also access the project website by using the web address www.mass.gov/orgs/division/events. The last sheet of the handout is a mail-in sheet. If you have any questions or comments which you would like to submit in writing, you may use this sheet for that purpose. You may email or mail it to the department within 10 days of this date, and it will become part of the official record. For mail-in correspondence addressed to Carrie LaValle, PE, Deputy Administrator and Chief Engineer at Mass DOT, Penn Park Plaza, Boston, Mass. 02166. Attention Project Management, project file number 607231. To email questions, comments, or concerns, please email to Mass DOT Project Management at dot.state.ma and include a subject line of attention design public hearing webinar comments. Project file number 607231. Before we move into public comment, we would like to invite any state, city, or local officials to speak at this time. Are there any public or elected officials who would like to ask questions or provide comment? Please put your title in the Q&A, and if it is not in your Zoom name so we can recognize you properly. We also have Nick from the town on the panels. If Nick, you can just unmute yourself if you would like to speak as well.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. I just wanted to say thank you for tonight's informational hearing. And of course, thank you for the years of detailed review of this project following the initial 25% design, I think about 3 years ago. For residents listening, we have requested a set of the color-coded plans, which should be available in the next coming weeks. But at this time, we do have full-size engineering drawings available at town offices if you want to see them in person. Just makes things a little easier. So, and additionally, if you have any questions, concerns, feel free to reach out to our office and we can get that information to you and coordinate directly with Greg Frazier and the rest of the project team.
Thank you, Nick. Are there any other public officials that would like to speak at this time before we move into the public format? Okay. See any hand raised or comments? So in this event, I will now hand it back to Joe, who will explain how to participate in the Q&A session.
Thanks, Greg. As I mentioned before, there are two main ways that you can interact with tonight's panelists. The first one is using your raised hand button. We already see the raised hand from a member of the audience. That'll allow you to be put on queue and give us a chance to unmute you, and you can speak your question or comments at that time. You can additionally submit your questions and comments using the Q&A button. That'll open up the Q&A box. You can type out your questions and comments there. If you're speaking, please state your name before your question or comment. And for the sake of providing everyone an equitable time here, please try to only share one comment or question at a time, limited to 2 minutes to allow everyone to participate. If you are on the phone, please dial *9, and the moderator, myself and Chris, will call out the last digits of your phone number, and you can unmute your audio when it's your turn. As mentioned earlier, there is a survey for everyone to fill out at the end of tonight's meeting. Please take a couple minutes to fill out the survey. Let us know how your experience was using this virtual format. All questions and comments are subject to public record disclosure, so please use these functions for project-related business only. So with that being said, we'll move on into our first attendee raised hand, Julia Peters. Julia, you can unmute yourself when you feel comfortable. Julia? I think there's something you might have to change with your mic settings on Zoom. If you click the drop-down arrow where you see the microphone /mute icon, you could probably change that. For now, we'll move on to our next raised hand from Penelope Robbins, who just dropped their hand. Okay. We're going to move on to Penelope. Penelope, feel free to unmute. and ask away.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Hello.
Yeah. Yeah, hi. My question has to do with the Northampton participation in the project. And you stated that they're covering the costs for their water main, but there probably are all sorts of other costs that they're not covering. And I'm curious about that. The project will take longer because they're laying the new pipe. How do you allocate the cost to Northampton that change in this project in any way in terms of labor, time, anything else?
Thank you, Penelope. So we actually, for any municipality that wants to update any kind of water main or any other infrastructure that is not part of the project, that cost is separated from the rest of the project cost, and that is not only just the cost of the installation of the water main, but any when I say material, I mean any kind of backfill around that water main, all the way up to the roadway box is required. So any soil that we weren't excavating as part of this project is measured, and it's also tracked in the field to make sure that this is being paid per line item by the resident engineer in the field, with the contractor, to make sure that that cost is not being incurred on the project. And the city of Northampton will also need to sign an agreement with Mass DOT to make sure that they will cover that cost before any work would begin. We also do a construction time duration. So we do incorporate any kind of additional municipal infrastructure that is being replaced into our construction time duration, and that is we plan the construction process out so that that work does not kind of cause a hiccup, if you will, on our project. But I'll let Mark Moore if you have anything additional to add to that, but I think that might cover it.
No, I mean, that's the only thing I'll add is, I mean, that you are correct that there is additional time that this project duration will take, and that's why we're saying more like 2 years, because the water work will have to be completed in advance of our project.
Thanks, Mark, and thanks, Greg, for the answer. And thank you, Penelope, for participating. Julia, it seems like you raised your hand again. Hopefully, we got your audio settings to work.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Sorry about that. I just wanted to thank Greg and Mark and Todd and the team that responded to the comments that residents made, and also the agreement by the selectmen of the town to ask for the alternative for design. Anyway, we look forward to seeing it progress.
Thank you very much, Julia.
Thank you. We have a written question from Kayleen Cannon. Hopefully I said your name correctly. Asking, are you planning to remove the stone walls along 64 to 68 Mountain Street that was on the original plan? Greg or Todd, if you could.
Yeah, I'll let Todd confirm, but where the cross section is reduced to match the existing roadway, those stone walls should not be impacted. But that would be good to Joe, if you could just go there.
Yep.
64, 68. Yeah, it does not look like we'd be impacting it. But Todd, as the other designer, can you just confirm?
Sure, Greg. Yeah, I was doing the same. I was zooming into 64 to 68. Is that correct? Okay. I'm gonna say yes. I agree with you, Greg, but we can always delve into it in more detail and get a more formal response back just to confirm.
Thank you. So we don't have, oh, there we go. Spoke too soon. We have a raised hand from David Brooks. David, I'm gonna ask you to unmute yourself. David, you with us? I might be experiencing similar audio issues with with Julia. If you toggle your microphone settings by clicking the drop down arrow from your microphone icon, you could probably fix that up. In the meanwhile, I'm gonna mute you and then go to our next question from Delia Crocker. Delia asks, could you show the plans for the area of 40 Mountain Street and Beaverbrook again? I could definitely do that. Is there anything specific you would like to see at this area? Please let me know. Is this the right one? Yes, I believe so. So we'll keep this on for a little bit, and hopefully David has fixed his microphone issues. David, feel free to ask away. Okay. I don't know if you're talking, but I don't think we can hear you. So I'm gonna mute you again. Hopefully we can figure this out. If not, please feel free to utilize the Q&A box. Thanks, David. Delia asked if I can move to the previous image. And this is the previous image, 32 to 40 Mountain Street. Please let me know if there's anything additional you'd like to see from our slides. David did ask a question in the Q&A box. Will there be temporary pavement on the water main work since it is a year in advance?
There would be temporary pavement, and it would be paid by the city of Northampton for that trench.
Thanks, Greg. Thank you, David, for your question. If you have further questions, feel free to ask away. We have a raised hand from Dan Bannister. Dan, feel free to unmute yourself.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my only question is this new water main, is the city just gonna end it at the end of your project, or are they gonna continue it down our high street, which we just rebuilt within the last 10 years? If they have not approached the town, as far as I know, with any plans for this water main.
So Todd has been mostly dealing with the design of the water main with the city of Northampton. So Todd, can you kind of just give a brief on where it's starting and ending, just so the residents are aware?
Sure, certainly. So, and while we're doing that, Joseph, if you wanted to go back to the first project graphic. So right now, the water main is continuing down Reservoir Road and does begin at the project limit where it's intended to be capped. With this project, there is no future project planned right now, as I'm aware, to continue down High Street. The value of the water main work within the 607231 project is it does make an interconnection to a cross-country water main along the Mountain Street segment. And that it takes offline a very, very old segment of water main that runs cross-country. So that's the value in doing so. And I believe the town's intention, and I can't speak for them, but my understanding is that they simply want to propose this water main while this work is being done so that they would not impact the roadway in the future.
So thanks, Todd. Just to clarify, though, it's only going to the project limit on Mountain Street. You're not extending it to beyond that. At
Correct. I see the confusion, and it's a really good question. Yes, we should have caught that with this graphic. It's going to be capped within the gray roadway area.
Thank you. Thanks for the clarification, Greg.
Welcome.
And Todd.
Good question.
Definitely. We have a couple questions in the Q&A box. Let's get through them. We have a first question from an anonymous attendee asking, has the design speed limit been adjusted down in areas that won't have the 40 miles per hour speed limit?
So currently the design the speed limit on the road is matching what is existing today. I know there's changes a couple times along the roadway as you're approaching Haydenville, High Street area, but it is matching what is existing today.
Thanks, Greg. Question from Delia Crocker. It is hard to get a sense of the right-of-way boundary line for 40 Mountain Street because of the split screen. Is it possible to get a copy of these two images? Also, what is the best way to update the property owner information for communications about this project? Try to get back to 40 now.
Sure. Yeah, Joe, while I'm talking, if you just kind of want to outline where that hash line is for the layout. So Delia, if you want to use that the handout, or we'll put back up how to contact us, even the email address. And if you want to provide your contact information, we can certainly have it corrected on the plans if it doesn't match. And we can certainly also, if you email, we can give you a copy of a draft plan as it stands right now. Again, the plans are very preliminary at this point. We're also, your town hall is going to constantly get, at the submissions, I should say. At every submission, the 75%, 100%, and every right-of-way will get a hard copy sent to your town hall. So it's probably the best way to see any updates is just by contacting your town hall or stopping by just to take a look at the plans.
Thanks, Greg, and thanks, Delia, for the questions. Question from David Brooks. What is the purpose of the wetland replication? Why is it so large? Where are the wetlands being filled in?
So again, the plans are very preliminary because we were really focusing on how to get this cross section down to match the existing with the new standards of super elevations and runoff. But I'll let Todd speak to the replication area. I know we still have some work to do on that, but Todd, if you can kind of give some insight.
Sure, certainly. Thank you, Greg. And again, good question. It is a large, relatively large area shown. And so the purpose of this area was just to begin the planning and coordination for wetland replication as and if needed. As I've mentioned, there's a stream crossing up around station 110 that will have impacts to wetlands for the construction of that crossing. There was also some work envisioned for regrading and fortification around the existing Beaver Brook and Potash Brook culverts. So, and also all along the project there's pockets of wetlands here and there. So this is an area that is always better to plan on the higher side and shrink it as the design progresses.
Thanks, Todd, and thanks, David, for the question. David, I don't know if you have any additional questions, but you do have your hand raised, so I'm going to give you a chance to unmute yourself. If that was your question that you asked in the Q&A box, and you don't have any further questions, feel free to lower your hand. I'm going to take the silence as a, yeah, my questions were answered. Okay. We have a question from Joel K. Sorry to be late in arriving. No worries. Can you go back to 8 Mountain Street, of course?
Joe, it will probably be the first of these slides.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yep, bottom right.
Oh, yes. So 8 Mountain Street. Be right here. So while we wait for any additional questions and comments from our attendees tonight, I'd like to go back to the slide that gives you, the audience, 2 main ways to contact the Department of Transportation after tonight's public meeting. The first and preferred way for you to reach us after tonight's meeting is sending an email to the Mass DOT Project Management email. The domain is at dot.state.ma.us. I understand it's a very long domain. We didn't get to decide it, but that's what we got. So please send us an email. Additionally, if you'd like to do it the old-fashioned way, you can send us written mail. Please address it to Carrie LaValle, PE, the Chief Engineer, at Mass DOT's Highway Headquarters in 10 Park Plaza in Boston, zip code 02116. For both correspondence methods, please submit the correspondence with the project management title addressed with the project file number being 607231. So we have some more questions in the Q&A box. Pam Parento asks, will tractor trailer and dump trucks be detoured during the construction? She notes that several go through a day.
At this time, we're not anticipating any detours, just lane closures, and as Todd had mentioned earlier, a possible signal for the culvert area to alternate traffic.
Thanks, Greg, and thanks, Pam, for your question. We have a question from David Brooks. I believe this might be a right-of-way / a butter question, but this might apply to all residents too. Will anyone from DOT come out to the site to do a walkthrough with the residents?
So as a project, actually, Pam, I just saw you mention, I'd rather you speak to it as this is your expertise.
Hi, Greg. Thank you everyone for the question. So the town is going to be actually going out and meeting with the individual property owners once the right-of-way plans are at the approved time period around the 100% design. And what will happen is after the town speaks with the property owners and shows them the areas where the easements will be, then there will be a certified general appraiser who will go out and offer to walk the affected area with you as well. And they'll come up with a just compensation value for your property. And then you'll work through the negotiation process with the municipality. And Mass DOT Right-of-Way Bureau Community Compliance Section will work with your municipality and legal counsel and designer to ensure that all public rights and private rights are protected for the property owners. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. I understand it might be a confusing process, but you always try to make it as simple as possible. So I appreciate you doing that. We have a question from an anonymous attendee asking, will any trees be cut?
So there may be some trimming. There is some thick brush along the roadway that may need to be trimmed back for construction purposes. As far as trees go, I believe there might be some small ones around the culvert that possibly could be impacted. But the intent is not to cut any trees. I know after the hearing there were some concerns of some property trees, and we are not impacting any of those at this time at all.
Thanks, Greg. Got a question from Joel K. I'll go back to 8 Mountain Street, this slide for you, Joel. Joel asks, what is the meaning of the purple shading 8 Mountain?
Sure, Joel, that's a great question. And I know you have that garage close to the roadway there, but it will not be impacted. The driveway shading, it may be more than what will actually be incurred. But as you can imagine, as you're tearing off asphalt along the roadway, it's difficult not to also kind of pull some of the asphalt of the edge of the driveway. And then also on top of that, with the roadway being paved, sometimes it could be a slight lip or any kind of lip. And so we'll cut back a nice cut on the driveway and pave back so that it's a nice flush driveway to the roadway, so there's no ponding or icing, and to also repair any damage that could incur as the project is being constructed.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Joel, for your question.
Joe, just gonna just say one other thing in the event that someone wants to send any other message, but we did receive all your comments after the public hearing, and we wanted to address them to the maximum extent possible. And we look forward to continuing working on this project, and plans will be continually submitted to your town hall. So feel free to stop by during the design process before it's advertised in the spring of 2026 to take a look at the hard copy plans.
Thanks, Greg. Definitely. We do have a question from an anonymous attendee asking about dirt driveways. What about dirt driveways where they meet?
Sure, that's a good follow-up to Joel's question there. So if as I mentioned, if there's asphalt, it will be replaced in kind with asphalt. Any gravel driveways will replace it with gravel, and so our purpose of those shadings is just to kind of say that we will restore it as much as you can to what it is existing today. Even if you had some nice pavers in the driveway, they would be replaced in kind. We wouldn't just go through, put an asphalt patch there, and then leave you with a driveway that didn't match what you have to this day.
Thanks, Greg. Don't have any additional questions at the moment. Seems like people are slowly dropping out of this meeting. So I just wanted to go back to this slide. Like I said, two main ways for you to contact us, the Department of Transportation, after tonight's meeting. Email is preferred, but you can also write in physical mail to our Boston office at 10 Park Plaza. Please include the project file number in both email correspondence and mail correspondence. You can also use a mobile device or follow the website link on the second bullet to reach the Highway Division events at mass.gov. From there, you can see all of our meeting recordings and meeting handouts and additional presentation material if we can put them on, such as the flyer and the notice and whatnot. So this is a great opportunity for people to get involved with the project and ask any questions even after tonight's meeting. Comment from Michelle. Thanks for being responsive to the community feedback. Of course, thank you, Michelle, for your participation. All right, I think we'll wait a minute or two. Seems like attendees are dropping. So we'll look to close out the hearing in a little bit. But you still have time to ask any questions or submit any comments you have right now. Thank you, Rob. Rob says very informative session. Appreciate your participation and engagement. So I think it is 7:15. I'll hand it back over to Greg for closing remarks.
Thank you, Joe and Chris, our producers and facilitators. Todd Clark and Nicole Davis from Hoyle Tanner and Associates. Nick Hakamo from the town of Williamsburg. Mark Moore from District 1. Pam Marquis, our right-of-way compliance manager. And all of you for attending. Thank you very much for attending this presentation. Going forward, your comments and concerns will be taken into consideration for the design of this project. Just a reminder, the handout for the project, which is posted on the MassDOT website, summarizes the information we've presented tonight. This handout also contains a form that you can complete and send if you had any additional questions or comments. Thank you again for attending. The meeting is now closed at 7:16 p.m. Good night, everyone.
Oh, Greg, sorry. We have one last
Oh.
question from an anonymous attendee asking,
Sure.
can an asphalt transition to a dirt driveway be requested?
Absolutely. If you, as you're anonymous, if you want to just send an email to that project management email address with your address, we can call it out on the plans.
Thank you.
All right. So I will now close the meeting at 7:16 p.m. Good night.